So this is a very special call for me. This girl, if you guys don't know her, okay, she's like an OG in our business. Her name is Michelle Colin, and I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for Michelle, truthfully. So when I got started in this business, I was doing well part-time, but it wasn't until I went to my first big event, the event that we have this week in Orlando. I went to an event like that, and I went up to um, our CFO, Robbie Kraft, and I said, like, I see these calls, I see these people like winning here, but like, who's more relatable to me? And he was like, I know just the perfect person. You got to follow me right now. And he leads me directly to Michelle. And I'm telling you guys, I was like a piece of Velcro to Michelle that weekend. I was like, let me take notes from you. I mean, I had a list of questions of things. I was like, let me see your iPad. How are you doing your appointments? How do you have an assistant? Like, I mean, I just asked her question after question. How much are you spending in leads? How are you making this happen? And I'm not going to steal her thunder with her story. I want her to share her story with you guys because I think it's really powerful of where she came from and where she is today. And she's so relatable. Michelle's a powerhouse. She is absolutely incredibly dynamic, but Michelle gave me belief that if she could do it, I could do it too. And she believed in me enough that she texted me after the event like, "Girl, come on, you got this. Like keep going." And I would call her in those first few months where I was really starting to get going full time in this. And I'm just so thankful for you, Michelle, and I'm so thankful that the team gets to hear from you and learn from you because you're truly one of the best and you've just got such a great mindset, such great skills. So I'm gonna let you take it away tonight.
Dude, how awesome is that intro? And it's just so surreal, right? Because now we've like known each other for like 2, 3 years, and
Yeah,
it's wild.
crazy.
Like I know you pre-baby, like
Right.
I like we just have been through some stuff, and it's just so cool, like guys, if you don't know like what Rachel has done, just be clear about that. Like they don't call her the green-eyed assassin for no reason. Like she's just a killer. And so you guys are blessed to be led by somebody super incredible. So thank you so much for having me on here as well. If I can tell you just a little bit about me, like this is my fourth year in this business, and time is just flying, so if you're brand new, I don't know, Rachel, if you have like super, super brand new, or even people who've been here a little bit, or maybe people who've even been here longer than a little bit, it's like it doesn't matter where you are, you can make a change like tomorrow, right? You can just decide to be better. And so like that's the most amazing part. And so for me, I started 4 years ago, I started part-time. The way I got introduced to this business, it was weird, right? So I went to school, I did the whole like, I'm gonna get a good job with good benefits, with the good, with the good, with the good, and they never say what the good is, they never, elaborate on what that means, but that's how we're sold. And so I really wanted to be a copyright, the people who do like the slogans and whatnot for like the Subway Eat Fresh type of deal. And when I got out of college, nobody was calling. The lines weren't ringing like how they said. And I had the loans to prove I was qualified, but nobody was really doing anything for me. So I took a job with my mom, and I started working for FedEx. And that held me down for about 6 years. And every October, I just remember like I was getting like a 10-cent raise. So if you think about that I was there 6 years, 10 cents every October. That's a 60-cent raise in 6 years. That's what you call a slap in the face, and like if I wanted to know where I'd be, right? If I wanted to know like what my life would look like if I just stayed there, I could just look at my mom. My mom's been there 20 something years. It's nothing bad to her. It's just not where I saw myself. It's not what I wanted to do. And so my brother went to a hotspot then. And so if you don't know what that is, it's like the Alliance does these overviews, right? Of like what we do, how we do it, who's making money and that kind of stuff. And he went to a meeting and they said, who do you know that's smarter than you, that's sharper than you, that's more like just that kind of stuff. And when he left that meeting, he called me. And by the way, Rachel, and I know it's kind of similar for you, it wasn't my first time being approached for this business. I had shut it down like 2 or 3 times prior. But my brother calls and he's like, I really think you can do this. We can pay off mom's house. We could just we change our lives. We could do this. And I don't know what it was on that day, maybe the right minute, the right time, but I just got in class. And I never waited for his results. There's a lot of people, if you're brand new and you're like, well, I don't want to tell anybody until I get good.
Right.
It's like, thank freaking God he didn't wait until he got good. Because he never got good. Like he never got licensed. He never finished anything. Like, and it's like, if you would imagine if somebody else would have done that to you, like what if nobody told you until they felt like they were good enough? Then none of us are here. And so it's like really, really special. So I'm a big believer in like, don't wait. Whoever you're thinking about right now, make that phone call, post, because it's life changing, you know. But I started doing this. My upline is not as like young as Rachel, not as relatable, right? Where Rachel found me and was like, we're relatable. Like there's a 40-year gap between me and the big guy, and he's about 100 years old, and but he's just a special guy. Like he just knew his craft. And so I found like when I first got started, I was kind of obsessed the way you are. Like I was so fanatical about getting better because I didn't have that much time to do it. So just so I can elaborate for y'all, I did a part-time position, right? So I was working full-time at FedEx. I was doing like a 5 a.m. to about 1 p.m. So that looks real different than that 9 to 5 situation, right? For most of us. But I was dialing on Saturdays and I was running appointments after work, and I was tired as hell all the time. But I was making more money than I ever have. And I was running at that time, I was probably doing probably like 14 appointments a week, 12 to 14 appointments a week,
Wow.
somewhere in that range. And you got to think, I wasn't making that much money at my current job. And so all of a sudden, I got here and I'm making what I make in multiple hours in 1 hour, right? And it's just like, what the heck? Like that doesn't even make any sense. And so like let me go back. If I would talk about the investment part, right? So I had to invest my time. It was tight for a season. So whoever's working right now and you guys want out, it's going to be tight for a season. And you got to be okay with that, right? And then we have to invest. And so I had never invested anything. Rachel, you had your own business, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So like there's some people who come in higher on the curve. There, you had your own business before, or you've invested in something that's giving you a return, or you're just like daredevil-ish, you don't have any fear. Like those people exist, right? But that person wasn't me. I definitely was scared because I had never invested in anything before. And so much like the rest of us, I invested small. So I was investing in the beginning probably about 200 bucks. And like I said, my upline, he was gracious with me. So he would throw me his old stuff. And so what I lacked in finances, right, I made up for in activity and effort. And I was just always in his face. So he had no choice but to throw me stuff behind. There was meat on the bones and I was going to eat it. But
Mhm.
I was just going to get it however I was going to live. And so, and I realized that I just kind of I liked this aspect where this is not a you can sell ice to Eskimo thing. This is we have what everybody needs.
Yep.
Like you're not trying to get somebody to believe in something random. It's like right now, wherever you are, somebody is dependent. Somebody's going to be financially burdened when you die. That's whoever, whether it's your parents, your spouse, your kids, whatever. So it's like if you relate on that level, all of your clients got the same stuff. So I was like, wow, okay, like I'm not trying to push a product. I'm not trying to do anything. These people reached out. I could freaking do this. And so I get with Mike and we started this $200 a week, and then we went to like 250, and then I was a little scared, so I stayed at 250 for a little bit, and then I kind of scaled it up. I think the max I was investing at that time part-time was like 300, 350, somewhere in there. And I was already making more than my full-time job. Um, if you guys are on the calls with like if you're on the national calls, right? Andy Albright was saying the other day about a girl that he told not to quit their job. That was me. Because he swore to God that if he told me to quit my job, I would start sleeping in and not getting up. And he was absolutely right. Because I really just wanted to sleep in. And so I held my job way longer, like I held it way longer than I should have, just to get me up in the morning. because they allowed me to sacrifice some hours. So I just started working like 3, 4 hours, and then I went full time here, and it allowed me to keep some of my dental benefits and things like that until I sold it to myself. But like, dude, I'm just saying, it's like this business is tailor made. So if you want out 2 months from now, you can design a plan to get out 2 months from now. If you are like, hey, I want 6 months of comfort, you can design a plan for 6 months of comfort. If it's a year, whatever it is, and obviously the faster that you go, the faster you can get out. But like I was 24, I didn't know nothing. You got my mom in my ear, like, it's a good job, it's a Fortune 500 company, like it was just like all this other stuff. So like I didn't know what I knew now.
Hmm.
And I didn't have the mentors that I have now and things like that. But it's like you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Now it's going to take work, it's going to take money, it's going to take sacrifice. And so that's kind of what it was for me in that beginning. So my first year, I did a little bit shy of 90 grand. Just like right under, I think it was like 86, 87. And I had never made over like 36,000 with some overtime, like ever. I've never touched that kind of money. Like that's being gracious, because the taxes and whatever. Like you just know this is like, even if you wrote my bills down on paper, it never felt like I had any money. And here I am, like my wife now, but fiance at the or girlfriend at the time, we were like, oh my God, who let me have money? Who let me do these things? We're going on vacation, whatever it was, like, but I was able to do whatever I wanted to do. You start thinking about money differently, you start acting differently, you start wanting to be around the people who have more of it so you can make more of it. And so what I was saying in the beginning is like, wherever you are, if you decide you want more, you can decide today and make tactical changes to go get more tomorrow.
Yep.
You can take whatever investment you have now and you can double down. You can book more appointments. If you don't have any money right now and all you have is time, you can call your warm markets. And I tell you what, if you can sell your warm markets, you can sell anybody, because sometimes your parents and your grandparent, they're the hardest sale, and it's, if you can do that stuff and just create a little bit of capital to get you going, the train won't stop as long as you keep going, right? And so now when I went full time, so I was able to let go of my job. I won that trip. At the time, it was to Thailand. And but COVID like jacked it up. So they said, hey, we're gonna go to Aruba. And Rich, you've been on the trips. It's just different. You think about going on a trip with your coworkers, take that out of your head. Like these trips are world class. You're making friendships, you're getting money when you're there, they're paying for everything. Like try going on a trip on somebody else's dime. Try getting gifts every night. Like it just will change you. And so I remember we hit that trip, and the reason I ended up leaving FedEx was they didn't let me have off for it, and that's crazy. So I ended up doing that, and right after that, that's when I had to start doing more. So I think I was doing about 350 at that time in leads. It was mostly direct mail. If y'all were wondering, like which lead source, direct mail was my bread and butter. I think to this day, direct mails are still everything. They're worth every penny that they are. They're timeless. Somebody can never look at their handwriting and say that wasn't me. And if they are, they're just crazy. Like it will be one in the very few, or it's something you're doing, and we'll get into that. Um, but I was doing direct mail at that time. I think I went from 350, like right after that, I bumped it to 500. Then I went to 550, and I went to 600. And then I think like just coasting on like 750 at one point. And for that, like what I was putting in my bank account was like 14 or 15,000 a month. And I was like, okay, we're all right. And like, but it has nothing to do, like the leads will work anyhow. And then just to prove a point to my team, just this past year when direct mails just went through the roof, I switched to Bang Bangs, and it's same approach. Like it doesn't matter what leads, as long as you're working them, and you're
Yep.
for every $100 that you spend, you should be writing about 1,000, and you'll take home about 500 or 600. And if and the average be the average, right? So you know, what if you take home 300? Okay. What if you take home 8? You know, if and what I've been saying to my team lately is like, if for everybody who's just scared, if you're scared about upping it, or if you're scared about running appointments in general, if you're scared about being on the phones, it's kind of like everything after the what if is made up. Like that's fair to say, right? Like everything after your what if thought process is made up. So it's like, why not make it up in your favor? Why not, well, you know, if you're scared to get on the phones, why not just start thinking about that everybody wants to book an appointment with you? Because you're thinking about what if they hang up, but what if they don't? What if they're waiting for you? What if they book the appointment? You know, you're scared to double down because what if you don't make your money back? But what if you make 2 times your money? Like you can just switch your thinking, and that's what this entire business is about, is just about your thinking. And granted, right now you don't really know how to think, but you have leaders on your team who have been there, done that. They know exactly what you're thinking. They know all the mistakes you're about to make. They know when you say you're going to door knock, you're probably not. And I love you, but you're probably not. You know, you say you're going to do X amount of stuff in the beginning, and you're probably not. You just need a little bit of accountability. You know, people don't get a weightlifting coach, right? Because they don't know how to lift the weights. They get it because they need somebody to hold them accountable to the workouts. They need somebody to show up. And so, like, this is like a gradual thing. So I took what I did in the beginning, right, all the way until just like earlier this year. That's where I was at. And so I wanted to hit y'all with some stuff about the in-home, because that's my, there's this, man, I get like, when I pull up to a house, I feel like I'm like clocking in. Like there's still that like nervousness in my stomach, but I'm also excited to be there because I truly believe that people are better after they see me. And like you guys can, however that comes off, it's not in like a cocky or arrogant way. It's just that I know that I care more than everybody else. I
Mhm.
know I'm gonna go the extra mile more than everybody else. I'm gonna be patient. Like I know that they're getting bombarded. I want it done right. I want them to be talked to how I would talk to my parents, how I talk to my grandparents, right? So if you think about that stuff and you know you're the right person for the job, then those fears kind of go at bay, right? And so like what I did, so just some things, right? If it doesn't matter if you're doing bang bang or if you're doing direct mail, um, but for the direct mail, if I was door knocking, let's just say I was pulling up, I'd wanna, like, I'm a big believer in like I have the leads. I print it out. There's a lot of people who don't print it out and they save all the trees. I don't care that much about the trees. I'm going to kill every one of them because I'm going to show you what you sent in to me. Like real life, you lick the nasty envelope, you walk to the mailbox, lift up the thingy, you walk back inside. Like, I want you to see that I got it. And then I also want you to know that I was assigned to you to go over what you qualify for. And so if a lot of you guys are saying the word life insurance, I just don't. It's not, I don't know, Rachel, if you ever said life insurance, but I just call everything a program.
Yep.
People respond really, really well to qualifying for a program. It's ironically, the program works just like life insurance. But I won't call it that unless they do. It's strange, right? Because they'll say, like, sometimes I'll call it a program the whole time, but if somebody calls them, they'll say, "Oh, I'm with my life insurance girl." I'm like, "See, she knew." It goes, it's like what is understood don't need to be said. You know, so like just some tactical things, right? So I will always print the lead with me. I like to take it out, but before all that, the biggest thing somebody taught me, and I think I might have said this to you, Rachel, is just like to reverse engineer.
Mhm.
And this is only everything. Like my mindset when I go in there is like, how fast can I gather important information from you? Like how fast? And I don't mean like just checking a box. Like if I was like, Rachel, what's your husband's name? What's your daughter's name? What's this? What's that? That's strange, right? But if I went into her house and I can figure out, my first question is always like, you know, how long you been here? That's, I don't get crazy. It's just how long you been here. And then Rachel, how long have you been in your house?
5 years.
5 years. So I'd be like, wow, 5 years. Like originally from Texas or
Wisconsin.
which, like, I don't know anybody from Wisconsin. I didn't even know she was from Wisconsin. And so like I would just say from originally from Texas, or and if you leave the blank, okay, people naturally want to tell you stuff. Like it's almost like they either pity you or they want to just they'll fill it in for you. So she says Wisconsin. Now that's strange, right? A girl from Wisconsin is now in Texas.
Very.
You see what I'm saying? Like the Wisconsin girl don't make it to Texas without something happening, right?
Right.
Right. And guys, so it's not anything crazy. It has nothing to do with the products. It has nothing to do with none of that stuff. But I'd be like, Wisconsin, how did, and I probably don't even finish my question. I'd be like, how did, and like naturally, Rachel will just explain. It would
Mm.
like she'll feel the need to like teach me whatever that is. And I don't know what it is, but usually people come to a place, they'll come for family, they come for health reasons, obviously super young and whatnot, but they'll move for their loved one, like a spouse or whatever. Somebody brings them somewhere. And if you were wondering what we came there to talk about, it's just their family. So within four questions, you get to the meat and potatoes.
Right.
Like guys, don't try to get crazy, don't try to speak insurance at them right from the door. But if you can figure out, your job is to figure out who Rachel cares about. Can you friend her? Can you befriend her? Can you get her to trust you? Can you figure out who she cares about? And then your job is to figure out actually like what her situation is and what happens if nothing changes. Not what product to do, not none of that stuff. Like this is how I teach my people. Like your job is to just figure out what the situation is and what happens if nothing changes. So what happens if she doesn't get insurance? What happens if she has some insurance, but it's not enough? What happens if she's in the wrong kind of insurance? How will I know all that stuff? You have great leaders. Like that part is, but Rachel won't even talk to me about her insurance if I don't know her, if she doesn't trust me. So the rest of that stuff you'll learn and you grow. And I think like when I came in here, Rachel, like my thing is like I got kind of head like people get head faked a lot. Like they'll have a great dial day, and then the next time that they dial, if it's not as perfect, they think they're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And or if they went out and they made sales, and then the next time that they don't, it's like, okay, if somebody's telling you that they just make sales all the time or they don't have a bad dial day, they are fucking lying. That's a lie. Like we all have those days, and like they're just bound to come, especially in the beginning. Like you were never that great there. You weren't that great there, but you're also not that bad here. And it's a progressional thing. And if y'all just compound the work and the effort, it'll grow over time. Um, so that's probably like my in-home jam. I wouldn't, as far as like things is, I don't know if you are getting objections. I'm sure that you are. You're I'd say like we're causing them. Like like I think it took me a little bit to realize that all of the objections that we get, they're self-induced. Like the think about it, the sitting down with one person. Like don't sit down with just one spouse. Doesn't matter if they're the decision make, don't do it. It just won't work. Some of y'all are gonna leave this tomorrow, go sit down with somebody that's one and won't work, telling you. um but as far as the other stuff, like I didn't fill it out, it's hard to get. It's really, really hard to get those things if you've already built rapport and flowed through the system. It's really hard. If you skip some steps, you're gonna get it. But if
Yeah.
you just go right through it, the system is designed to overcome objections throughout. Now, you find yourself kind of backpedaling, it's because somebody you were watching, like you weren't watching their body language where they felt disconnected, or you offended them, or you cut them off when they were speaking. So guys, when I'm telling you, like a lot of us think it's the products, and I thought too, like I thought that that's what does it, but it is not at all. It's your ability to connect with people. That is only everything here. Only everything. So I would say like the people who do the best, you're gonna do the best right in the beginning when you kind of don't know nothing. So all you know is like how to charm them. And then you're building friendships and like that. Then there's gonna get to a point. Remember this, okay? There's gonna get to a point where then you learn some stuff
Hmm.
and then you're gonna get beat up because you're gonna be like, how the heck? How am I worse than before? And it's like, you're not worse. You just know too much now. You just know way too much. And you're trying to educate instead of learn about them. You're trying to educate them on this. You're trying to be right. It's a weird place. And you need to make very fast adjustments here. This is like a death zone, I think. It's your ability to almost take a step back, ask your leader what you're doing or what you're not doing, how different you used to be. But those things are like if you decide that you don't want to be here very long, that can change. It it can change. And then you go back to actually finding out what they did. Another thing is like we can most of the time, 9 out of 10, we have a better product for people. Nine times out of 10, we could beat whatever they got. Problem is that it's not always a beating game. Like it's not always a replace everything and move on. You might learn that the hard way because you're gonna think you're just gonna come in there. Somebody filled this out, had insurance 10 years ago, and you're gonna come in there and try to just replace it. And it's like, they had that for 10 years. It serves a purpose. They probably want this to do something else. Like you can have more than one thing, but when you realize we have such good things, I can see how you think that that's going to be beneficial, but fight the urge and just really establish like why somebody filled this out and what happens if nothing changes today. Like if you leave them the exact same way, what's the outcome when they die? That's heavily important. And Rachel, do you have people that have like did in-home and then transition to virtual?
Yeah, so we're having, I would say on this call right now, I mean, we try as much as we can to get brand new people in homes.
Yeah.
Based on geographic locations, some of them had to start virtual, but a majority of them were getting in person. And then if we need to supplement, then we're also having them do some verticals and some virtual.
Okay, that's awesome. And so the people who are I think you gotta do some in-home prior to the phone. I think
Yeah.
you have to see. So guys, I probably transitioned. So I did it in April. So I've been an in-home girl. Like I hope that y'all are feeling like I just love people. Like I love to be with them. And like I would always say this thing like, oh, I'm an in-person person. You're gonna like me more in person. And I think that I really believe that mindset because when I first tried to transition, and my version of tried is funny, but like I did it one time and I didn't like the results, so I was like, I'm out. Um, because I felt humbled and I didn't like being new at something and being bad at it, and I was getting objections that I wouldn't get in the home. You like just stuff that you have to work through. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna avoid the suck. And I went back to what's comfortable. And so I did this in April, like right during the View from the Edge time. And I was just terrible on the phones, y'all, because I think there is like a little bit of a gap. Like you on the phones, you have to establish like credibility very quickly. And you
Mhm.
cannot just be like, so what your kids do? Blah. Like it ain't that approach. You can eventually get to a rapport, but I don't think for me it wasn't working the same way. And so I was all of a sudden I was really nervous when I spoke to them. I was reading the script verbatim because I was just so afraid of saying the wrong thing. Um, just stuff that you have to like learn or unlearn. And so I kind of just went back, Rachel. I kind of went back to the things I did before. I was like, let me find out who's good at this. Like, I'm gonna find out who's good at this. I'm gonna figure out what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they're sitting, how they're eating, how they're smiling. I'm gonna figure out how many times they're on the phone. Like, I will do whatever to get better. I will do whatever to speed this process up, because I went back in the home. I had a great time. Everything was cool. But then I realized that, long term, like, virtual is a way that I would like to go, right? It's something that I would like to learn to teach anyhow. And so I was like, okay, I have to get back. And then guess what? Starting all over sucked 10 times worse than starting the first time. It just, I didn't remember. So when I got back out there, I was like, all right, I have to attach myself to somebody great. I have to plug myself in, put myself in environments where I'm unmuted on Zooms, just messing this thing up. Like, if y'all could hear I wish I would have recorded my first couple calls, because they were just god awful. They were god awful. And I think, like, for people who just, if you think very highly of your leaders and stuff, if you think that they don't make some mistakes or they're not human or whatever, like, catch them when they're learning something new, but don't pay attention to how, if they're struggling. Pay attention to what they do when they're struggling. Pay attention to what their mindset is, and what they do and how they respond to what you call it, to L's, to losses. Like, how long do they stay in them? How long do they dwell? What's their next move? Do they stop investing? Because the first time I stopped investing. The first time I was like, I'll go back to what I know. But I think with virtual, it was one of those things that have compounded. And so this is probably like my fifth or sixth week um doing
Can I
virtual.
interrupt for 1 second, Michelle?
Mhm.
So, the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but you guys, Michelle lives in an area where the reason she ended up switching was because the in-person leads ended up, the cost increased dramatically. And so
100.
what she was paying was now almost double for one lead. And
Yep.
so it kind of forced her into a virtual situation. It wasn't like she was, I mean, obviously everything she's telling you is the truth for sure. Like, she wanted to be able to teach this. She loved the idea of being able to go virtual, but she also kind of got pushed into a corner based on where she was geographically and what the lead cost was. Um, this is so good, Michelle. Oh my gosh. You just fire me up so much. And I know I'm seeing our chat, like a lot of other people are getting good content out of this. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just
No,
wanted to
no.
preface that because I think a lot of people on here are brand new. Well, why did she go virtual?
Oh,
Um,
that's good. Yeah, the leads went to for one lead, just to give y'all context, for one lead in my area is like 120 for one direct mail.
wow.
And so it's like, ah, you know, and then from there, like, you just had to make choices. So I was trying multiple different things, I think. And this is just kind of what stuck. But and it's just a testament, like, that, not like everything works. That's one thing. Everything works. And then it's that compound effect of what you do, because what you're doing now, you're getting paid for what you did 3 weeks ago. So even if you're having a great week this week, yes, technically we get paid 3 times a week. For all my people that are like, no, I got paid for what I did on Monday. Yeah, for sure. But it's your efforts. You're getting paid for what your efforts were 3 weeks ago, where your mindset was at 3 weeks ago. And so this is like, I think, yeah, this is like my fourth or my fifth week on this transition. And now I'm like, thank you, God. Like, everything, like, I know, like, everything is working. Like, I think they were asking me today, what'd you do different? I was like, literally nothing. I swear to you guys, it's just not quitting. Like, if you could just decide, like, if you can just decide that you're just going to outlast, like, when your brain is about to quit or throw in the towel, just be like, nah, like, I'm just gonna go again. I'm gonna go again, because eventually your brain is just gonna be like, oh Jesus, she's not gonna stop. Or, like, it's kind of like, if you guys work out and you're on your last rep, and like, every, like, all your muscles are like shaking, but somehow you're like, okay, I'll just do one more. And like, all of a sudden you could do one more. You can't do 10 more, but you can do one more. And I think, like, if we can just adapt that mindset here, it's like, okay, and I don't know if your people were just skyrocketing just great. off rip, or if they're having some like a transitional period, or what. But for me, it's that ability to just remember, like, again, you're not as bad as you weren't as great, and you're not as bad, and the numbers are the numbers, and everything works a little bit, and it's that level of activity. And I think on the phones you have to do almost double the amount of activity to have more conversations. I think 10 people a day, easy, is the only way you'll really scale it up.
So
What about
yeah,
you?
talk to us, Michelle, about like what your schedule is, what your schedule was when you were doing in person, and now what your schedule is with virtual. Um, because yeah, that changes the game if you're talking to 10 people. I mean, but your goal even in homes was 10 a day.
Yep, 10. Yeah.
So maybe it is the same.
Yeah, so it's I think the only difference is like getting them on the phone, right? But
Right.
so before, when I first got started, when I went full time, I worked 4 days in the field. 4 full days in the field. So that's 10 appointments, 10 appointments a day. I think like in terms of like 7 solid, three, nah, you know those ones. They're like,
Call me before you come.
yeah, call me before you come. I might be there. Me too. I might be there. When might you be there? Those three those three in between so-sos, but 7 solid, right? So 10 a day. And then I got good. So I took those, what I used to do in 4 days, I took it and I condensed it into two. And I just decided that you can just still run the same amount of appointments. Your skill set is better, and you can just have like a number goal. So my goal is to write about 6,000 between 2 days, and then I'm out of the field. If I didn't write that 6,000, I would have to run that extra day. But you
Wow.
just get very efficient at your time. And then the other time, let's say you do run those 2 days, you can go build, you can go travel, do that with your team. You can run appointments with your agents. It just freed up a lot more time. You can do interviews. So that was my schedule. I did the
And
4 for probably a year, like 4 days. And then after about a year and some change, I was able to condense it into two. And then I ran that for ever. And then now virtually I work I mean, I'm just trying to get like, I'm in this still in this baby stage where like I haven't mastered it yet. So I've been making calls every day. Like I started at like 9, and then I'll just go, like I have a lot of licenses that are on Central Time. So we're on East Coast time, so I get that extra hour, which is really, really cool. I thought nobody would answer the phone or want to make sales on Sundays. Turns out that was all in my head. Um, people are off of work, they'll get it done on Sundays. Saturdays have been great. So right now I'm trying to find the flow that I want. And as far as like with my team though, like that are also doing the virtual, is that I'm trying to never have them do it alone. Like,
mm,
so it's the Zoom is open. We're on there. You can type real quick in the chat, and it's don't say that ever again, or laugh. That's kind of funny. Like that. You can do those things, and you can still make like very quick like feedback and corrections while you're doing it all together. But I haven't found a sweet spot yet of like stopping, because right now I just want as much. I want more shots on goal right now. And it's kind of like when I was back working the 4 full days. It's like now I just shoot to have 10 conversations. Um,
10 conversations a day.
10 conversations a day.
Are those are those 10 contacts? Are those 10 actual like you're getting into it with them?
Yeah.
What's 10?
So 10, I should have 10 conversations. So what I have found in the beginning, I was like thinking like, oh, I'll book an appointment. Like I'll book an appointment the way that I have done this whole time. But then, like for me, the appointments weren't showing up at the time. And I've tried multiple tips, multiple tricks, like text messages, just different things. And I was like, shoot, that wasn't working. So 10 conversations to me is like you're going all the way through. Like where I take you all the way through to options.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a conversation. The rest are just contacts, and I try to track it, like how many people answer the phone, how many hangups, because you're still gonna get hung up. Like we're still dealing with people. I just need, how many hangups, and so I called like the ones that go all the way through. I still call them sits, how many applications, and then I still will book appointments. I just have to like not get too attached. Like if I'm running late to one, I don't actually care because the likelihood that they're there is much lower
Right.
than, in person. That's just what I have found. Um, and the other stuff too, y'all, is like I think I have developed a solid intro on the vertical, and like I just have an intro, and then the rest is kind of like that's when I get to be more me. Like
Can you give us an example of your intro?
yeah, like I'll say, I'll be like, hey Rachel, this is Michelle with Integrity Group. Reason for my call was we had got that request for the insurance programs online. It looks like you listed such and such as your beneficiary, and your favorite vegetable was a potato was a potato. Is that ringing a bell for you?
Yeah, potatoes, obviously.
That's what I would have put too. That's what I would have put too. Rachel, is this for you or is this for a loved one?
This is for a loved one.
This is okay. This is for like you're getting coverage on a loved one.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, and now is this for final expenses? Is this for some I love you money? Maybe a combo of both.
Yeah, I think a combo of both.
Combo of both. Okay, sweet. And then do we have something in place now for the final expenses or not yet?
We do. It's just not enough.
Okay, it's just not enough. Okay, so you're looking to add to.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Rachel. Well, hey, look, I work with just over 40 different companies. So we're going to figure out, what you're eligible for, but most importantly, which one is going to give you the best rate. Okay. But I can definitely get some answers on the phone for you. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, sweet. So let me get some information from you.
Wow. No, that's good. That's smooth. That's really smooth. Um, and are you finding that, so earlier in this call, you had talked about how, especially when you're in person, when you have objections, you created them yourself.
Yeah.
Are you finding that the same is true for virtual when they say I need to think about it, the spouse isn't there? I mean, are you finding it's the exact same objections and that you're setting yourself up by not overcoming those objections or creating like self-inflicting them?
Yeah, and it's almost so annoying because you're like, oh, like I knew that. Like it's like, oh, like, but you do have to still manage expectations, the same way you would in the home where you got this 75-year-old that got, that's super healthy, but is on cancer and COPD and but wants 50 grand for $100, and it's like we know that that's not going to happen, and
Right.
so we have to manage expectations. Now by this point, just so you know, um they also know, but I found like you have to be real with people up front, and address those concerns like way earlier.
Mm,
um so that's one. The other objection on the think about it, I've realized that is just tied to value. Same way in the home, like there just wasn't a gap between where they are and where they'd like to be. Then it's like it's just what it is. Like where Rachel just said, like, well, we do, but we don't have enough. Right there, I wouldn't touch it. Like I would just keep it light, keep it fun. Like I'm just gonna move along. But then it's gonna get to a point where you switch, where you clock in, kind of like in the home, where all of a sudden you're getting down to the meat and potatoes. And because it's like I want to figure out why she thinks it's not enough and what happens if nothing changes.
yep.
And so like that's been a huge deal because in the beginning I was just giving out quotes.
Oh,
Like,
you were
yeah, that was.
quoting.
Mhm. Yeah, I was moving at the speed. Like they'd be like, "Hey, I just wanted some options. I just wanted some options. Just wanted some options." And I'd be like, "Okay, let me just, and like I was just like, trying to, because I thought that that's what does it. Turns out no. Still, the answer's still no. People won't do it just based on price. Um,
What
so
a- what have you found with, because I know on here, I know who's on the calls right now. So, you know, we've heard some of their objections where they're struggling to for them to go get the policy, or they're um another one of someone who's on here right now, they have a policy, but the daughter is paying for the policy, and the daughter's at work right now. And so like, how are you overcoming those, whether you're in person or you're virtual? With when they're not going to get the policy, how are you retracting? How are you really going back to rebuild that trust and to build the rapport in order for them to lower their guard?
so those are great, and they're different. And
Right.
in person, if you're getting that and they don't want to get it for you, they just don't trust. Like they do not trust you. Um, they just don't trust you, because I don't really necessarily need the paperwork, and you don't need the paperwork. We just kind of got to know the company, and let's just call them.
Right.
Like, and it's a very like, um, it's kind of like you can't diagnose somebody. Like if you're a doctor, you couldn't diagnose somebody until you know what medicines they're on. Like I legit can't tell you what you qualify for until I know where you're at.
Yep.
And I think you just have like it has to be the conviction that you have. Like I'm not moving forward. Like we can't move forward. Like this is like we gotta know what you're paying for. We gotta know where your money's going. Like I gotta know what's gonna like what your daughter's gonna get. You gotta know. If you don't know, like it's like that stuff is so important. And so when you're in person, if they don't want to get the policy, it might be too late to do. You already reached a point where now they're just like, well, show me what you got. And if you just show it, just ain't gonna work. That won't work. But if you can establish it ahead of time, like so they have something, what is that meant to do for them? How'd they get it? You can figure out if their kids kind of pay for stuff for them. You kind of gauge that early on. You can see if they have autonomy on their bills or not. And so as you're doing that stuff, that's where the questions come in. They're not just like, how's the weather? You have to be very intentional about what you're asking so you know how to guide the conversation, you
Mm,
know? And so like if that's where you're at and you're getting it, there's nothing I can say to get you it there. But ahead of time, we can establish credibility. Like it's just a matter of fact. Like they got some insurance. Okay, go ahead and grab that for me.
yep.
It don't flinch. Okay, go ahead and grab that for me. I'm gonna use the restroom. Like we got to see it. On the virtual side, when they have a policy, I found you have to tread very lightly. Very lightly, because a lot of times what I've seen other people do is right in the beginning where Rachel says, I have some, but it's not enough. They'll be like, okay, who's it with? How much you got? Like,
Mm,
what are you paying? When'd you get it? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, pump the brakes. They don't know you and you're turning them off. Like they're not going, they can't even figure out if you can help them. And truly, you don't know if you can help them.
right.
So it has to be what makes sense. And so if I start to ask you, Rachel, like we get down to the next section, I'm asking you some medical stuff, and I'm like, so tell me, like, have you been looking to add for a while now? You just kind of started, what's kind of been the thing, like that's held you back, right? Like I'm just trying to gauge her situation. Sometimes the more confused you are, she'll be like, well, thing is, I have 10,000. And I just don't know if like people will just start sharing it with you if you calm down.
Yep.
If you calm down. And I'm telling y'all because I was like I was the same way because I know we can beat it. Like I know that we're better. And so I felt like I was just like, give it to me. And like I wasn't getting it. So if you just kind of dial it
Mm,
back, figure out what that's meant to do, what it's meant to be for. You like if you can still have that conversation, they'll start sharing who it's with. You can kind of say, did you get it over the phone too? Did somebody come out? It's all very like um putting their guard down questions before you go for the kill of like how much you paying, like,
right.
and the other thing too is like you didn't say you couldn't afford it. So sometimes it's not about me even touching that policy. That policy has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Yeah, so that's just kind of along the way. It's come from making mistakes. So if you can learn from mine, awesome. If you have to make those same ones to learn, that's frustrating, you know.
What would you say your other big tip has been in virtual? Like, we've heard you've got to slow down, don't go in for the kill. Like you got to have a little bit of a script before you're like showing more, asking more questions. Like what would you say has been the other big turning point for you outside of just not quitting?
Um, hmm, that's a great question. Um,
If there
hmm.
is any, maybe there's not. Maybe it was just
I was
continue.
thinking, I'm like, it's tough. Like I feel like now I'm having more fun. It's just like it's weird.
Yeah.
Because like in the beginning, I'm not like a tensed up person, like naturally. But I feel like when I'm learning something new, I'm like super just like
Yeah.
like as if you're around me in the time where I'm learning something, you're like, oh my gosh, it's just like I'm just so tense, I'm hypercritical, like they don't know that you messed up,
Right.
so it's all of that stuff. And when you realize like, oh, okay, it's guardrails. The entire this entire business is all conceptual. If you can grasp the concept and follow the framework, you'll be just fine. I
Yeah.
think it's when I think it's like if Rachel, I tried to be you,
Mm-hmm.
or if you tried to be me.
Yep.
Um, and that stuff, it gets messy, right? Because we are saying to copy, but I think people misunderstand like what that means. It's your version of this tone.
Yep.
It's your version of this slowdown. It's your version, like it's so I think like now that I'm kind of taking a step back, I'm just more relaxed. Like I was watching Andre. Andre's on your team. I was watching Andre and it was in my tensed up period, and that man was freaking eating chicken and relaxed. Like he just had this lackadaisical approach to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't left this chair because I thought like if I leave this chair, like they're not signing. He's
Right.
walking around his house and he's just having a conversation versus me. I was very robotic, just
Mm,
trying to get it
that's
so
huge.
perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, and then
Yep.
he really like I think if it wasn't for him like eating in the camera that day, I was like, nah, this can't be it. Like I'm overcomplicating this. Like this is much simpler. Like we're gonna be all right. So shout out to Andre and his meal because it was really eye-opening. Like it's just not that serious.
Yep.
People are still asking for help. We still have what they need. I still think that they're better when they talk to me over anybody else. I'm still going to care the most. And I think like once that stuff gets bridged together, like and if you feel that way too, like if you feel like I'll care more, I'll do this more, feel that and your approach will be different, your tone
Yep.
will be different and all that kind of stuff.
No, for sure. That's so good. That's so good. And would you say your investment, you're you're now investing, obviously it's very different investing in person than it is in virtual.
Yeah.
Would you say your investments are back up to where you were what you were spending full time for, in person
Yep.
as you are now to be full time with virtual?
Yep. Now
Okay.
more actually right
Spending
now.
more.
Yeah, it's more, and I will say this, like, it was like a little bit upsetting again because you're so used to doing this and it prints this and it's very systematic.
Yeah.
So investing more and not making more in the
Mm,
beginning, it was like tough to like wrap my mind around. And like, it's one of those things where you're telling your team like it's the results are gonna come, the results are gonna come. But
right.
even yourself, you're like, they better come, because like you don't want to go back to what you're used to,
Yep.
so you have to fight with everything. So like my investment is back up. Production is like moving along. I think right now this is my highest issue paid week, and it's like right at 8 grand, like
Okay.
for the week, and it's Monday, right? It's Monday.
Yeah,
Monday.
go girl.
It's
Yes.
Monday, but y'all, if you would have seen me 3 weeks ago, I was my 13th reason why. I was about to take the place out. I was over it. Like I was frustrated. And it's like, dude, you just gotta outlast the suck.
Yep.
You have to go through it. You can't avoid it. There's no way around it. It's like go straight through that thing, go head on, and it won't last very long.
Yeah. And last question I'll ask, because there's a lot of people on here that they're in the suck right now. They're still so new. They're still trying to figure it out. They're still trying to get their mindset right. Um, as far as, your spouse and your significant other, what are you going home when you're going through that tough season? Um, like how are you asking for encouragement from her? Because you can't have a spouse that's also beating you down when you're beating yourself down. You've got to have someone who's lifting you up so you can lift yourself up. And what is she saying to you, and how are you getting yourself, how are you pulling your bootstraps up when you're having those tough days? Because 6 weeks to get to where you are now, most people would have quit by then. You know what I mean? They would have just gone back to what was comfortable, what they knew. They would have spent the extra money for the leads. There's not everyone would stick it out. So what are you saying to yourself, and what is your spouse saying to you?
So I started with what Cassie says, and like I think it has a lot to do with me, right? Because it's what am I saying to her, right?
Right.
Because your spouse is going to be down for you if you chose a good spouse. Like
Yep.
the draft. If you chose a good one, they're gonna be down for whatever you're down for. So if you go home and you hate this and you do this and blah blah blah, and it just sounds so negative all the time, sounds more draining than it is, right? Then they're gonna say, "Why are you putting yourself through it? You don't have to do that. Just walk away. Just do this,"
Yeah.
because they're going to be supportive of what they think that you want. So I
Yep.
think you have to be very clear. And for me, Cassie knew that I was frustrated with my results, right? Like starting, because I like to think that I'm no different from where you are. I felt the exact same way. Like the suck is suck. Okay. Like it felt the exact same way. And so what I told Cassie, I was like, do me a favor, just give me grace. Like I
Yeah.
was just like, just give me grace. And so every day she wasn't in my ear talking about like, did you make a sale? How did like she wasn't doing none of that. It was kind of like at my discretion to tell her what I wanted to say. So instead of me saying like, I didn't get anything today, I'd be like, dude, I got a longer conversation today. Like, I held this lady on the phone forever. Now she hung up on me, didn't give me the banking. However, like it was longer than yesterday, and like it's that belief that you are better than you were before because there's no
Yes.
way that you showed up the exact same person because that same person wouldn't have showed up. So I think you have to be very clear about what you're going to tell them, right? And how you're going to view yourself when you're in the suck. Because I don't think that I suck. I think I was in the suck. And
Right.
y'all don't suck. You're just in the suck. And you
Mhm.
need to pay your dues. Rent is due. Like you have to go through the suck. And guess what? It makes you more relatable. Because if you never went through the suck and
Yes.
you hire a team and they're going through a suck, they're going to be like, you don't get it. My
Yep.
team they can never look me in my face and say, like, you don't get it.
Mhm.
Yeah, like you get a different kind of credibility. Like, no, who are you when you suck? Because I know who I am. Does that
Yep.
make sense? Like, and so what do I say to me, right? Because that was how you said it. I just was like, no, this is not gonna last. I'm gonna get through this. This will not last forever. I was telling, we're on a Zoom call and I was telling him, I'm like, this is the worst you're gonna see me. This is the worst I'll ever be. This is like the worst you're ever gonna be is in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like I believe that wholeheartedly. Y'all need to believe that wholeheartedly because the system works. It's like a what do they say? It's like a guaranteed success rate if you don't quit. It's like all you like right as you're about to quit, I bet you like the next call you make is usually the one that hits. The next
Yes.
appointment that you go to, the next person is thanking God you called or thanking God you showed up at their door and thanking God. And it's like, do you want them to thank God for me or do you want them to thank God for you? Because somebody's gonna go help them with insurance, and I'd rather it be you because you put in the time, the money, the energy.
Yes.
But Rachel will do it if y'all don't want to, like but you have to want to and just honestly, guys, it's not that bad. We're gonna be all right.
Yes. Michelle, you guys, you see now why I'm like so inspired by her. She is just an absolute powerhouse, so dynamic, firing on all cylinders. Please introduce yourself this weekend to Michelle if you're brand new. Um, I mean, there's going to be people like Michelle that if Michelle, doesn't relate to you in other ways, go find somebody that does. Find
Mhm.
somebody that is going to, when you go home after this event and you run into a challenge or a problem, that is going to be like, you know what? If they did it, I can do it too, because that's who Michelle was for me when I went to my first event. And I hope you guys find somebody this weekend or some sort of an accountability partner with all that you learn so that when you go home and you run into that, when you run into that challenge, you can overcome it. Just like Michelle did with virtual, and just like all of you who have gotten through contracting, gotten your license, it's absolutely worth it to just keep going here. So meet with Michelle, meet with the leaders, and find somebody that can hold you accountable and get you through your suck, and get you to the other side, because we want to see you guys win. So thank you so much, Michelle, for tonight. I hope you guys took a ton of notes. I was very engaged in this. Love you. So thankful for you. We will see you guys this weekend in Orlando. Bye, y'all.